My name is Pablo Rangel. I am a second-year master's student in the Department of History graduate program. My current research considers images and attitudes about Mexicans and Mexican descent people that are present in popular print media during the early 20th century. I investigate ideas of race, nationality, and imperialism at the turn of the 20th century. Currently, I am a teaching assistant in the department. I work with Dr. Lesser, TAing for History 101, the second half of Western civilization. I have had a nomadic background, but I've been in Lincoln for the past 20 years. Well, I did my undergraduate degree here at UNL and graduated in 2011. And so I chose to apply to the university's Department in History graduate program because I wanted to continue the research that I'd been doing and work with the faculty that I've been working with to complete some projects that we've been speaking about. Particularly, I had an opportunity to be funded through the program by working with Dr. Seefeld on a project for the Buffalo Bill Project that is a digital project housed at the university. The skills that I've learned as a history undergraduate and then graduate student at UNL are quite dynamic, in fact. You know, I've learned the basic skills of the historian, which are to research, to write, and to demonstrate the findings of those writings. But on a deeper level, the idea of research, writing, and presentation translate into many different professions and many different possibilities. So I would say that at the core, my skill set is to know how to find information, and then also, maybe more importantly, is to know how to communicate that information in an understandable way, both written and orally. I have some basic and some more specific goals. Basically, I would like to use these skills that I've learned at this department to get a job, to be a top candidate for different kinds of jobs. Working in a museum, I could work for a corporation, I could work in public schools, I could work as a researcher and writer for a nonprofit organization. Ultimately, my dream would be to be a faculty member in a research university as a professor of history. Working through the University of Nebraska History Department provides me an opportunity to network throughout the country. My faculty advisors are very connected throughout their fields in the United States and even in Latin America in one instance. And so I'm able to meet people that are not connected to this university, which also allows me better opportunities outside of Nebraska. I am a very active member in the History Graduate Students Association. Currently, I am on multiple committees, but I am the chair of the James A. Raleigh Conference in the Humanities for 2013. The topic for the conference this time around is Public and Private Memory, Understanding Collective Past. I devised this topic as a way to broaden the conference possibilities. In the recent past, this is the 8th annual Raleigh Conference. In the recent past, the conference is focused primarily on 19th century America West history. And our department's much more dynamic than that. As well, I know other colleagues around the country who have fascinating research and they need an outlet for that. So I chose to broaden this topic and talk about memory more broadly rather than simply in the 19th century American West. I also wanted to broaden the idea of what we do as historians and what we do as graduate students to include not only university and scholarly work, but also to include public history and opportunities outside of the academe. So I invited Eduardo Diaz, who is the director of the Smithsonian Latino Museum in Washington, D.C., to be our keynote speaker. Other than the James A. Raleigh Conference in the Humanities, I've also participated in the History Harvest for the last 3 years. It's an opportunity for graduate students and undergraduates in our department to reach out into the community and see why history matters to people in their daily lives. Also, through the department, I've been able to work with the Making Invisible Histories Visible program that is run through the Omaha Public School System. That also is a great way to give back to the community, but also be part of a community and understand how our work as scholars impacts people on their daily life. What was really useful for me is that I was able to go from Lincoln to Omaha and work with people that I didn't know. You know, there were dozens of Omaha Public School teachers and administration involved in the program, and also many dozen students. These are 9th grade students. And so I was able to work with these people in Omaha and get contacts at archives and libraries and the community centers in Omaha, places I've never been before. Particularly interesting for me is that one student that was on our 3-student panel that I helped work with, her research project that turned into a digital project through the Omaha Public School, Making Invisible History Visible, was showcased very recently on the national level. And so that was really great to see that this young student has changed her view of education and values it more now, and plans to not only make her way through high school, but then also go to college after that. Digital history, for me, has perhaps been the most significant skill that makes me a unique candidate for jobs and other opportunities, both in UNL's community, but also outside of it. Working with Professor Seefeld a couple of years ago, I first learned how to do digital research and how to make how to transform my traditional research into digital perspective using cutting-edge tools and technology. Last year, I completed a project through the Buffalo Bill project housed at the University of Nebraska. That project allowed me to more dynamically demonstrate my ability to formulate the short argument and not have it as a written paper or an article, but instead have it as an interactive digital project using tools of navigation. This project has allowed my work to be more visible. Without a formal publication, it's still available online for people to look at and to navigate through. And it's also a way for me to continually work on the project and to have it visible. So it's been very useful. And as I was looking at other universities to do my graduate work at, I realized that not very many of them have this digital tool. And I believe that the digital history and digital humanities are going to be a very integral part of the future. And it's a skill that I think is essential for historians. Okay. Yeah, I learned most of the skills that I have in the digital history seminar that was taught by Professor Seefeld a few years ago. And in that project, in that course, I was able to build a project on University of Nebraska history. And so I chose to do a digital archive, thematic archive of the creation of the Chicano Studies program at UNL. And that's still available online through the university library. The second project I completed, the Buffalo Bill Project, which is housed here at the University of Nebraska through the Center for Digital Research and Humanities, the CDRH. Nevertheless, it was organized and funded through the Buffalo Bill Historical Center in Cody, Wyoming. What I did was I looked through Buffalo Bill and other traveling Wild West entertainment, photographs, postcards, show programs, and the like, and teased out of those sources images of the Mexican vaquero. In my digital project, I demonstrate that was a popular character that has been greatly ignored and forgotten in the current era. I use the digital tools in my project to compare and contrast and make arguments about the ideas of race and attitudes of class and nationalism.
Okay.
I'm Pablo Rangel, and I'm making history at UNL.